welcome and good morning. My name is David Rice. I'm CEO and co-founder at Snap Analytics. We design and deliver data solutions in the modern data stack. Travelled here today from the West Country, from Bristol. Anyone else from the West Country? Well, we've got a few. In the West Country, we're known for having a liking for cider. Believe it or not, cider and data do have something in common. Both are commonly held responsible for some very questionable decisions. I'll maybe stick to data rather than a career in stand-up comedy. I'm really delighted to be welcomed today I'm really delighted to welcome Dan Adams, who's head of the global data team at Edmund Optics, and Calvin Fuss, who heads up our AI practice. And Dan and Calvin are going to talk to you a little bit about the extraordinary data journey that Edmund have been on over the past couple of years. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be talking to both of you. So Dan, tell us a little bit about your role and who are Edmund Optics?
Sure, yeah. It's nice to be here. So Edmund are one of those companies working behind the scenes of the global economy that you've maybe never heard of. We're a precision optical and photonics component manufacturer. We sell components to a lot of other manufacturing industries and R&D teams all over the world. We've been going since 1942, so we're quite an old company. We have a wide range of markets and industries that we sell into. Things like biomedical science, machine vision, industrial inspection, barcode scanning, autonomous vehicles. I could go on, but I won't. If anyone is interested in the cool things that lasers and optics can do, come talk to me afterwards. So that's Edmund. My role there, I'm the analytics manager. I'm in charge of standard BI reporting as well as developing AI and ML capabilities at Edmund. It's a very small team of 4 people, myself included. We're all sort of, let's say, full stack data professionals, doing a little bit of everything. And we're always on our toes.
Fantastic. So Calvin, talk to us a little bit about how the Snap and the Edmund romance began. I can assure you there was no cider involved, and hopefully, Dan, this wasn't one of those questionable decisions. But yeah, Calvin, talk to us a little bit about that.
No, sure. Great to meet you all. Dan, you started with Snowflake and Data IQ. One of the biggest objectives within Edmund was taking the data from legacy into a cloud infrastructure. And with that, if you get the data right, you can start doing really awesome things. So we've done a lot of Snowflake and Data IQ based implementations before, and I guess you wanted a specialist that could work with you to deliver those projects.
Fantastic. So what we've been able to jointly deliver in a really short space of time has been really quite extraordinary. And Dan, give us an overview of that journey and what were the key milestones along that journey?
Sure, so the team's actually very young. We've only been going about 2 years. So the first major investment was Snowflake and Matillion when the team was founded. That's when we bought our shiny new sports car. This is the analogy for this presentation. And the first year was actually quite tough going. There's a lot of details to figure out, authentication, pipelines to build, problems to overcome. I was handed a lifeline by the AI hype cycle in 2024, where the leadership team at Edmund said, we must do something with AI, right? Which I'm sure many of you here have probably heard as well. And so I jumped at that chance and sort of spec'd out a tech support chatbot, and Snap was selected for that project to partner with us. And since then, it's been from strength to strength, really. So we very quickly gained additional investment following that project. Data IQ came in January of this year, and since then we've delivered 3 machine learning models into production, 4 actually, and we're now starting work on our biggest, most ambitious project yet, which is the inventory forecasting project, which we just started this week, and that has the potential to lead to millions of dollars of savings for the company.
Fantastic, thank you. So I think many of our wonderful partners and tech vendors that you'll see here today might say, hey, come and buy our solution, it's going to solve all of your problems. And of course that's really the case. There's some fantastic technology, huge enablers, big accelerators out there, but I think it rarely solves all of your problems. But look, we accept tech plays a massive part. But there's a lot of things that really have to come together to make projects successful. So Calvin, what do you see as those kind of key building blocks to enable this kind of success?
Yeah, I think it very much comes down to the data in the back end. So the most difficult part is getting real tangible value from your data, right? Everyone wants to do AI, but as soon as you start with AI projects, if the data isn't in the right state, you quickly lose confidence. You can show something really cool in the first 3 months of doing a project, but then if one of the dependencies isn't robust enough, being data, you quickly fall flat. Snowflake and Data IQ are incredible when it comes to the tech capabilities, but you guys have spent 2 years really getting the data in the right state to make that a success. The second is talent and the people that you work with. You want to keep up to speed with what's going on in the market. 6 months ago, it may not have been the best approach, but now things have changed so quickly. There's a new thing going, and half of our team are constantly learning and doing the research and ensuring we're delivering that kind of cutting edge capability with the platforms that we effectively are using.
Great. So Dan, tech is just one part of the puzzle, right? What are the other kind of key factors in ensuring that you're delivering successful outcomes?
Yeah, so obviously, as Calvin alluded to, the partner and the expertise and the knowledge that you have available with the people on your team is really, really important. If you don't have a driver for your sports car, you're not going to get very far. That's the analogy. For us, working with someone like Snap, it was like I had a senior data engineer and data scientist on my team, and they were able to sort of make sure we were using best practice from day one, overcoming common issues and problems before they even became problems, or if we did have any blockers, they were removed within hours rather than days or weeks, which means we could really keep the speed up, right, and keep moving forwards. I think the other key thing is to make sure you're communicating properly to your organization internally. If no one knows what you're doing or why you're doing it, or do people know what Snowflake is? I had that conversation many times in the first few months. What is Snowflake? Why do we have Snowflake? What is the cloud anyway? Isn't it just like SQL Server in a different place? Like, I've had all those conversations. It's important to make sure people understand what you're doing and that you're communicating why you're doing what you're doing and what the initiatives are to the wider organization, so you can continually have support and build relationships with people internally, because you're going to need help from people that you work with. Like it or not, we can't build something in a vacuum. And so making sure that you're playing nicely internally with the other people in your organization is really key as well.
Fantastic. So moving on, it's important that you go somewhere useful, right? So I think one of the things you've done a really good job of, Dan, is prioritizing the use cases that are really aligned with that strategic value. And I think sometimes projects become, technology projects rather than business projects. So Calvin, how important is it that, how helpful has it been to work with a partner that really helps to articulate and align the technical work that we're doing to real strategic value for the organization?
Extremely. As soon as you get into a project, it's very easy to promise the world. A good example would be, we are going to completely eradicate customer churn, for instance, right? That simply isn't possible. We need to set those tangible, measurable, goal-orientated KPIs, and that's effectively what we've done in every single one of these projects. Another one is, when it comes to revenue forecasting, understanding what hasn't gone well in the past. Was it user adoption? Are people not trusting the output? And why is that? So, we want to take a business-first approach that will align with the end business users first and foremost, and then you can start building upon those kind of incremental wins. If you get something that the business can adopt, you can build upon it, and you can really build that relationship. We don't just work, with you. We work across your entire business effectively, because it's the end users that we have in mind, right? But we have you as the person that will be able to bring those end users into the conversations early on, And that's the key, that communication, like you guys say.
And on that revenue forecasting project, the sort of explainable aspect of that was really important, right? We chose, revenue forecasting has been around for many decades, so it's not a new thing, right? It's not a fancy new machine learning algorithm, right? Regression is like, I think 1800s was was first developed as an algorithm. But it was easy to explain to the executives. They could immediately see the value because we didn't really know where our revenue was going to be 2-3 months down the line. So they could immediately see the value, they could understand what we were trying to do, and it was a great place to start, right, for that reason.
I completely agree,
Yeah, fantastic. So for those of you that have seen Dragon's Den, you'll know that one of the most important rules going into the den is know your numbers. And I think not only were you able to really, at the start of the project, estimate that ROI value, but I think being able to track that retrospectively has been really, really important to get buy-in for future investment. So how important was it that you know, going into this project, we really knew our numbers?
Yeah, so as the team who provide the rest of the organization with their metrics and KPIs, it would be rather hypocritical of me not to hold myself to the same standard. So yeah, obviously that was really important for me to make sure we had at least one key metric that we could measure ourselves against to determine whether the project had been successful or not. And I would say if you can't think of one, then do a different project, like it's that important. Secondly, the metric that you choose needs to be something that either is widely accepted and understood in the organization already by the executive team, or it needs to be something new that you can very easily explain to people. Because if you say, oh yeah, I've got this chi-squared value that I'm going to show people for my model, all right, the executives are going to glaze over and say, great, what does that mean? What is that? You know, you have to be able to explain what you're doing and what the result was.
Yeah.
So that's really, really important.
I think it's so important to be talking their language. We had a really good conversation around, you know, execs really are looking broadly across the organization. They're not going to understand in detail your linear regression model. They want to know what it means and how it's going to help them and how it's going to drive their agenda. So I think that's really, really, really important.
The other thing to say is keep telling people. So as data people, you might not think about marketing and you know, sales and stuff very much, but you're sort of marketing and selling yourself internally to the rest of the organization. And if you don't repeatedly tell people what you're doing and explain yourself, people will very quickly forget what you're doing and why you're doing it. So bring it up at every opportunity. Tell people why this forecasting model is cool. Tell people about Snowflake and what you might be able to do in the future as often as you can, right? To make sure that people really get the message. Yeah,
100%. And I just really advocate that all of us in data, we need to be advocates for data, for the power of data. Ultimately, advocates for what that data can do for the business from a strategic perspective. So, and I think that often gets lost when you're in the technical weeds. So it is important to bring ourselves back up and understand why are we doing this, who is it helping, and how is it driving value. It's such a key element of what all of us, I'm sure, in this room do. I've always believed that pace and speed of and being agile is really important. Delivering results fast and you know, giving people those quick wins, making it real, making it tangible is really, really important. I don't know, Calvin, this is something that you do very well. And so how important is it to deliver those quick wins and those real outcomes fast?
Yeah, no, very. The way we normally approach it is on a value matrix. So kind of the most valuable use cases on the one axis, and then how complex it is on the other axis. And you know, you work with a business to effectively choose the type of use case that not only is going to have a good impact, but really aligns with the need of the end user. So what effectively we've done is we've communicated with the end users early on, and we built a very robust kind of statement of work with all the technical details involved within that. So we all align on what's within scope, and we deliver those quick wins on a weekly basis. You know, keeping them engaged in the progress. You know, we don't just run off and develop and then showcase it at the end. We've got that constant iterative flow that really works quite well.
I think as well we deliberately chose speed over complexity initially when we started. So I knew that I needed to quickly show people things that they could understand and that they would get value from. So we chose really, let's say, traditional cookie cutter machine learning applications, like revenue forecasting, product recommendation, customer segmentation, right? These are all things that are very well understood and very good applications for machine learning. We knew we could generate good results. We knew that we could explain things to people very easily, right? Revenue forecasting, self-explanatory. Product recommendation, oh, it's like Amazon, right? It's like when you go on the cart and they show you products, yeah, okay. Right, and customer segmentation, it's about labeling our customers, great, really easy, right, to explain to people what's going on. We knew we could deliver good results, and that because they were sort of simple, well understood machine learning applications, we were able to deliver them quite consistently and quickly, which helped build momentum until we finally came up with the inventory forecasting, which was the sort of big, that's a really big, complicated beast of a project. If we'd started with that, this would have fallen flat on its face, I guarantee. So we sort of worked our way up to that really big, high-impact project.
And it's a great point, because I think sometimes we seek out those really complex, new, shiny solutions, things that have never been done before. We want to be pushing boundaries. Sometimes, as you say, the more traditional solutions, the organization may not be doing well. So there are some sort of low-hanging fruit, for want of a better phrase there, that you can often go after to deliver results, show impact, and then get buy-in to go after the big, hairy, audacious goal, if you like. So yeah, really good point. I think, Dan, the pace that our teams have kind of gone in has been really impressive. And what were the key enablers for that pace over the past 12 months?
So obviously, Snap Analytics talk. Snap are a great partner. Having the right partner at your side is really helpful. What's great about Snap and what I've really appreciated is the real depth of knowledge and expertise and experience they have. They're specialists in our tech stack, and they see problems before they happen. They remove roadblocks in hours, not weeks, right? And if Calvin and Pete, the guys I was working with, don't know the answer, they can go down the hall and ask someone who's got 20 years experience who does. And that's the benefit of working with a specialist consultancy like Snap. And that really helped us keep things moving forwards, definitely. The second thing is that relationship with the partner, that's regular communication. I'm in these guys' teams. I'm hooked up. I can message them directly any time of day, which I'm sure they love. We have regular calls. We're constantly checking in with each other, making sure that the progress is good, we're going in the right direction, we course correct if needed. Calvin has that chance to sort of check with me, hey, we were thinking about this, what do you think? And I'm like, no, better do this. So we're constantly adjusting how we're going as we're moving through the project, and that also helps keep the pace up, I think. And yeah, finally just making sure you're delivering something that is visible to the rest of the organization, making sure you stay visible, again, regularly communicating to people what you're doing, why you're doing it, making sure you've got things to show your boss, things to show the senior team, right? This is what we're doing. It's really helpful to keep that investment flowing, stop any unwanted questions or budget cuts coming your way as well. So.
Great stuff, and thank you for your kind words, Dan. I'll get you that beer later. No, cider later. So, look, thank you so much for sharing the Edmund Optics journey. I think a few key takeaways from the session. I think the first one is technology alone isn't enough. It's not going to solve all your problems. It's not the silver bullet. Yes, cloud technologies, the modern data stack are massive enablers and I talk a lot about maximizing the work you don't have to do. Choose a platform, choose a stack that takes away a lot of that having to cluster and do all of that upfront design and architecture. There's always an element of that. Of course, you've got to design your role-based access control. You've got to make sure you've got architecture in place and that it's resilient and robust. There's a lot of things today with the modern stack you don't have to do anymore, but it's not enough. You need a team that really has experience, understands how to drive the car, right? So you need to find a great driver for the vehicle. Now, whether that's internally, whether it's externally, whatever works best for your organization, but make sure you have the right expertise to get the most out of that investment in technology. And your sports car needs fuel, right? The Ferrari's on the drive. If it doesn't have any fuel, you're not going to get very far. So ensure you've got good quality data. Make sure you've done the upfront data engineering, data is transformed, organized, modeled in a way that you can then start leveraging it for maximum value. I think go somewhere useful, we talked about, set your sat nav before you begin the journey. If you get in the car and just start driving aimlessly, you're probably not going to end up in the right place. Ensure you've got a really clear direction and can articulate that solution in a really clear, simple way to different stakeholders in the organization. And different stakeholders may need to be communicated with in very different ways. So be mindful of how you're talking to an exec versus a data engineer versus a data scientist. It's really important that we are communicating at the right level. I've seen many instances where engineers come in with the big architecture diagram and the data models and sit in a room with execs who just sort of look blankly at it, right? So they want to understand what value is this going to bring to my organization. Try and put a number on it. It's not always easy, but try and find that ROI number. I think go fast, right? Create that clear scope and that definition of done. Try not to overcomplicate. I think we talked about, some of the use cases you might deliver initially are maybe fairly simple, but are going to deliver value for the business. And I think the right people coupled with the right technology is really what's going to enable you to move at pace. Yeah, have people in your team that have done this before that can help you overcome those roadblocks. And look, there are many fantastic vendors here today, all with their own specialisms. Of course, I would love it if you came and talked to Snap, but find the right partner for you and your organization that have specialist expertise in the stack that you're using, right? And that may not always be the same partner, right? We've all got our own areas of expertise and specialism. For us, it's Snowflake and Databricks. For others, it might be Google or we do a lot of work with SAP as well. But find an expert in your domain. Find an expert in your technology stack. So we're going to take questions from the audience for a few minutes. So has anybody got any questions? I'm not sure if we've got a microphone yet. Man at the back, it doesn't look like it's working. Does anyone have any questions? You might need to shout them out. Yes. There's a guy coming. There we go.
Hi, Marco Virgili from DMV.
We can't hear it.
Marco Virgili from DMV.
We'll figure this out. No, you're all good. You're all good. Okay. Hello.
Hi, Marco from DMV. You mentioned data quality. How do you measure what's good quality enough? How do you set the bar?
So how do you set the bar and measure what is good data quality?
That's a really interesting question. So I was going to comment before Dave took questions, but I actually started from the data. So I went to the really well-established data sets that we've been using for many years to report on sales, for example. So I went to our core data that was very well understood and people sort of already agreed on the numbers. I think you can sort of, a proxy for whether the data quality is good is do people trust it? That you'll inherently know. If you talk to people about the data in question, and they say, for example, for us, quote data is a bit of a mess. So if I go to talk to someone about quote metrics, everyone just sort of starts rolling their eyes and goes, yeah, but we know that's not complete. We don't always match the sales orders properly. There's loads of problems. Whereas if I say, this is the sales figure for yesterday, everybody sort of is in wide agreement that that's what the number is, and there's no question. So I sort of looked for those data sets within the organization where that was already the case, and then I based the applications that we went for around the data that was already good that we had. So yeah, I would sort of, that's my sort of heuristic, I guess, for knowing where your good data is in the organization.
Yeah, from my side, one of the things I see, I can hear myself, that's quite disconcerting. One of the things I see a lot of is people investing in data governance tools. And again, on this one, I would say the tool isn't going to solve your problem. Take the time to actually define understand and profile the data, see what kind of issues and challenges you get in that data, and define what's good, because the tools aren't going to fix your data. Now there's some great stuff you can do with AI to detect anomalies and things these days, but ultimately right now you need people to define, look, that field should not be null, this field should match this pattern, et cetera, and then look, we've even just built Power BI data quality reports, and they've been fantastic because you can actually start to quantify what's good and what's not good, and start to improve and iterate on those. As I say, there are lots of fantastic tools. Ultimately, you need to invest the time to define what is good data, what is bad data, and then find a mechanism to measure that. Yeah. Any more questions? One at the front here. Yeah, there's a mic coming your way.
Hi, from Ionica, Manchester. The question is, how do you deal with variable data, where most of our data is to do with pricing, and we have many variables? So I just need to know how you would deal with how your platform might deal with there's 3-4 variables that determine our pricing, and the pricing is very variable, moves in real time. So how would you suggest that we deal with that? We got probably about 10 variables that feed into the pricing mechanism. So all I'm hearing is you got to define the data beforehand. So if the data is variable, how would you deal with that?
I would say we don't have any true streaming data sets like what it sounds like you're talking about, real-time pricing, that's streaming, right?
Yeah, the price varies on the variable data, which is like a set of 10 variable data sets. So they determine our pricing mechanism.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not an expert on that, but I would say that you're going to have a very high volume of data, you're going to have very high speed of data, so immediately I'm going to say you're going to need elastic cloud capacity, right? You're going to need a Snowflake or a Databricks or whatever your chosen poison is, or Fabric, Microsoft Fabric even. You're going to need something like that can handle the volume and speed that you're pushing data into the system. And I guess you're going to need a certain latency in your queries and stuff. So you're going to need a basic level of tech to be able to handle that. But once you've got that, I mean, it's just a case of getting the pipelines and running the queries, right? Are you struggling to handle the speed of your data? Is that the issue?
At the moment, we haven't implemented anything, so we just come here just to see what sort of platforms can handle that. So maybe some suggestions along that would be useful.
Yeah, I think if you're still working with on-prem servers, you're very quickly going to run into capacity bottlenecks. Your queries are going to start running a long time. You're going to start clogging up servers. So I would immediately suggest that you look at some sort of elastic cloud platform, like Snowflake, like Databricks, like Fabric. There are others. Those are the three that are in my mind. But
yeah, and there's some fantastic solutions like dynamic tables in Snowflake. Databricks have also got some great solutions in terms of sort of real time. So you can sort of do things like dynamic pricing. Come and talk to us. There's probably a deeper conversation here. We're at L118. I think, have we got time for one more question? We've got 1 minute, so 1 minute left. So we'll take one more question. Anyone?
Hi guys. How did you specifically solve the issue with legacy systems, like connecting up to legacy systems when you don't have modern connectors, for example?
That is a really good question and a constant battle for me. So one of the big challenges to get this whole thing moving was overcoming that massive amount of legacy infrastructure that we still have and we're still fighting against. We came to a compromise, I would say, with our technical team, in that they would start pushing exports from SQL Server to blob storage for us, and then we were picking them up with a tool like Matillion, pushing them into Snowflake. And that was a way that everyone could be happy, because our compliance team was not happy with us connecting directly to SQL Server, and so we sort of had to come up with this compromise. And that's what I'm saying when you have to really work with the people in your organization and sometimes do crazy things, like push to plot storage from SQL and then pick up from Matillion. So yeah, I think you just have to figure out a way around these things. But it is a constant battle, I'm still fighting it today.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I think we're out of time, guys, but thank you so much for coming and listening.
Thank you all.
We'll be here for a few minutes. If anyone does want to come and ask any questions, we'll sort of hover over there for a little bit. Please do come and see Snap Analytics. We're at L118, and we are also hosting happy hour drinks, which are a short walk away at Megan's with our fantastic partners, Matillion. Please, have we got any flyers, Gemma? So Gemma has some flyers here at the front if you do want to join us, and we'd love to see you this evening. But if not, have a fantastic day, and thank you very much, everybody.